Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda Ki. She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. It is the long-standing tradition of Vedic system that a faithful wife dies along with her husband. This is called Sahamarana. In India, this system was prevalent even to the date of British occupation. At that time, however, a wife who did not wish to die with her husband was sometimes forced to do so by her relatives. Formerly, that was not the case. The wife used to enter the fire voluntarily. The British government stopped this practice, considering it inhuman. However, from the early history of India, we find that when Maharaj Pandu died, he was survived by two wives, Madri and Kunti. The question was whether both should die or one should die. After the death of Maharaj Pandu, his wives settled that one should remain and the other should go. Madri would perish with her husband in the fire, and Kunti would remain to take charge of the 5 Pandava children. Even as late as 1936, we saw a devoted wife voluntarily enter the fire of her husband. This indicates that a devotee's wife must be prepared to act in such a way. Similarly, a devoted disciple of the spiritual master would rather die with the spiritual master than fail to execute the spiritual master's mission. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down upon this earth to reestablish the principles of religion, so his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to reestablish religious principles. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciples should decide to die along with the spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciples should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. So in the first paragraph, Śrīla Prabhupada is describing about Sahamarana, and then he quotes the example of Madri, who entered the fire with Pandu. You know that Pandu, he was cursed, and because he had killed a Brahmin by mistake, thought it was a deer. So even when I was in Delhi in the 1980s, in Jaipur, one lady voluntarily took sati with her husband. And there was a great outcry in the Hindustan Times and Times of India. Oh, this is archaic. This is old school. This is old. This is, Hindu sentiment. This is wrong. So they came and asked me what I thought, Hindustan Times, India Today. I said, this is the example given in Vedas. If you follow the Vedas, Vedais Chasarver Aham Eva Vedeo, Vedanta Vidveda Ved Eva Chaham. Krishna has compiled the Vedas, so our authority is God. Sarvasa Chaham Ridi Shani Vishto, Matasmitir Gyanam Aponam Cha. Lord Krishna, as we know, he tells Arjuna that I'm situated in everyone's heart. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we accept the authority, excuse me, of the Vedas and the Guru Parampara. And therefore, Śrīla Prabhupāda is saying here that in ancient times, just like Gandhari, when she married Dhritarashtra, he was blind. And so she also took blindfold, like that. This is the symptom of a very chaste wife. We know that Tulsi, she was extremely chaste, is so powerful that her husband, who was demoniac qualities, he conquered all the demigods. So it's also described that the wife is like a fort. So Śrīla Prabhupāda used to say, a man's support is the wife, like a fort. And therefore the onslaught of Maya. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-Gītā, Śrīla Prabhupāda describes in a purport that one who surrenders to Krishna, he declares war on Maya. So one has to arm himself properly and protect himself from the onslaught of Maya. Arjuna in the Bhagavad-Gītā also claims, just as here we're reading about Puranjana. Puranjana represents the conditioned soul. Purusho prakritisto hi karanam gunasangosya sadasam yoni janmasu. The soul is always being attacked by Rajagun Tamagun, Loba Praviti Maramba Karmana Ashama Spriha, Rajani Etani Jayante Vivide Bharatarshava. The modes of passion and the mode of ignorance, these are the weapons of Maya. And therefore, within our hearts, we know anarthas, so many anarthas. And so one has to be very careful, even as a devotee in a neophyte stage. We're in the beginning stages of devotional service. Anartha nivriti syat. We're purifying our hearts of all these anarthas, kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mada, matsarya. And then there's subtle material desires in the subtle body as well. This is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the 12th, Madhya 12, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yuga avatar in Kali Yuga, is cleansing the Gundicha Mandir with his devotees. Hundreds of devotees are purifying the Gundicha Mandir to receive the Lord within their hearts. The Lord cannot come into our hearts if it has subtle or gross desires. Kutinati, fault finding. This is more subtle. In the association of devotees, sometimes we see, I don't like this devotee, I don't like this devotee. Subtle contamination within the mind, therefore the first offense to the holy name is committed, to blaspheme devotees of the Lord who've dedicated their lives to the propagation of the mission of Lord Chaitanya. Another one is pratishtaham. Pratishtaham means that I'm in the society of devotees, but I want to have some followers. I want to be a big leader in the society of the Vaishnavas. This desire is also like straws and grains and sand within the heart. Then we cannot get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. We cannot get the mercy of the spiritual acharyas, the great acharyas. Another one is to act in ways that are forbidden in the scriptures. We have to be very careful. As it stated, Samashitaye Padapalavapavam Mahatpadam Punya Yashomarari Bhavambudir Yastam Padam 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 Yad Vipatam Natesham. Step by step, we're walking in this material world, the forest of material enjoyment. At every step there is danger unless one is constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, as Prahlad Maharaj says to his father, Naisham Matistavadu Rukarangrim Sprishas Ananartabamo Yadarta Maniyasam, that unless one takes the dust from the lotus feet of the great acharyas. Rupa Goswami also tells us this in the Upadeshamrita, that we have to follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas, and we have to please the lotus feet. We have to take the dust from the lotus feet of the great acharyas. Tat karma pravartana. We have to follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas. So the heart, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is demonstrating, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Śrīla Prabhupāda quotes Bhaktisiddhanta saying that this heart has to become very, very purified. Pratishta, puja, one wants some kind of worship. I'm a big guru. I distributed so many books yesterday. People should respect me. I'm a Prabhupada disciple. People should respect me. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, if you want to chant the holy name of the Lord purely, Nam Namakari Bahudan Nija Sharva Shaktis, within the holy name, all of the Shakti is there. All of his Sarvasya Shaktir, Vividhai Vashriyates, Svabhavaki Gana, Bala Kriya Cha, that Krishna's Shaktis are all in the holy name. So if we want to get the full Shakti, we have to become free from this desire, these different material contaminations within the heart. We know that Srila Vedavyasa has also said, Tadarajas tamo bhavo kamo lobhadayas chaye. Cheta eter anavridam stita pragya. We have to become stita pragya, fixed in devotional service. We can only do that when the mind is very peaceful, when the mind is under control. So Maharaj Puranjana, he represents the conditioned soul. He is overwhelmed by material enjoyment with his wife, the materialistic intelligence. He's living in the city of 9 gates, this material body. Narada Muni is describing this to Prachina Barishat. And this is an analogy. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur would present himself as a conditioned soul. And saying, I have so much high education. I was taking care of my children and my wife and my family. Ato griha shestra sutaptive tire janasya mohoyam ahamameti. I and mine, like this. So again here, Maharaj Puranjana has taken birth as Vidarbhi, the wife of Maharaj Vidarbha, and taken birth again in this material body. So Srila Prabhupada used to tell us, he said, don't take another birth in this material world. You don't know what is going to happen. You, like Maharaj Bharat, he had attained the level of bhava, a very high level. After ruchi, there's nishta, then ruchi, then bhava, stage of raganuga, spontaneous devotional service to Krishna. That means one is always remembering Krishna. One never forgets Krishna. And then he attained the initial preliminary stages of Krishna prema, love for Krishna, bhava. And yet, when he went to the forest, he renounced his entire kingdom, his family. We know what happened. What happened? What happened to Maharaj Bharat? Took birth as a deer. Mrigu, right? Mrigu means deer. So Srila Prabhupada would always warn us to be very, very careful in this material world, in this life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his disciple Rupan Sanat, they were very aristocratic ministers in the Mohammedan government. But they were so humble, even though they were born in a high Brahmin family. They took on the Mohammedan names, Dabir Kash and Sakir Malik. And when they met Lord Chaitanya, they offered full of prostrations. They put straw in their teeth. So we want to be lower than the grass on the ground, lower than the straw in the street. Gopir Pada Kamalayor Dasa Das Anudas. We want to serve the other Vaishnavas, serve the other devotees, push them up. And if they like, they can step on my head at any time. We want to feel ourselves lower than the straw on the street. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even though he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, you know that he took Diksha from Ishvara Puri. And even when Ramachandra Puri was criticizing Lord Chaitanya was very humble and reduced the food he was eating. Ramachandra Puri was actually, within his heart, a bit of a Mayavadi. And he would criticize the Vaishnavas in Jagannath Puri. He even criticized his own spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri, isn't it? He said, why are you lamenting? Madhavendra Puri was experiencing separation in the mood of Radharani. Radharani is feeling separation. The gopis are feeling separation from Lord Krishna. He abandons them because they got a little puffed up. And he disappeared from the Rasa Leela dance in the forest of Vrindavan. So Ramachandra Puri told his spiritual master, why are you lamenting? Brahmaputta prashanadma nasochati nakangshati. Sama sarvashi bhuteshu mad bhaktim lavate. Why are you lamenting? You shouldn't be so shati. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gītā, one who never laments, or in the 12th chapter, he says, one who never laments or hankers, so many qualities he describes in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-Gītā. Madhavendra Puri said, get out of my sight. I will never attain the lotus feet of Lord Krishna if I see you in my presence. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took initiation from Ishvara Puri, who was serving Madhavendra Puri to his last breath. He would clean him up because he was an invalid. He would clean him, wipe his body, clean his body, take care of his spiritual master. This is the secret of success, is to give one's life without any reservation. Ahaitukiya pratiyata, yayatma samprasidati. We give our life without reservation to the spiritual master, to the great acharyas. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he was about to jump off of a bridge and kill himself because Gorkashore Das Babaji refused to give him Diksha. We know the story. So, very important to give our lives to our spiritual master. And Śrīla Prabhupāda, he has appointed spiritual masters, and he said in the future there will be thousands of spiritual masters. The spiritual master is qualified by following very strictly Vachavegam, Manasakruta Vegam. There are many spiritual masters coming to America nowadays, in Canada, hot yoga guys, this yogi, this sai, this that. They're all actually cheating. They're cheating gurus. So the real guru, first of all, accepts the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. The Sampradaya, they're the four Vaishnava Sampradayas. The most active one is the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, and follows very carefully Vachavegam, Manasakruta Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam. One who is a spiritual master, the quality of a spiritual master is he is completely free from all material desires, subtle and gross. He is the most humble. Śrīla Prabhupāda was so humble. He would stand in line behind Mother Yamuna and Malati and Mukunda. He'd stand in line before them in New York to go to the bathroom. He would stand behind. He would never, and they would call him Swamiji, which is kind of a lower type of title. And then gradually he said, Swamiji, what should we call you? And then he said, Prabhupada is better. So Śrīla Prabhupada was extremely humble, and of course extremely powerful. When you're in a room with Śrīla Prabhupada, it was like all the demigods were there. They're so powerful. Why? Krishna Shakti Vinana here. Because he had taken the message of the spiritual master and given it to us without any compromise, any adulteration, any motivation for fame, society, friendship, followers, nothing like that. His only desire was to please his spiritual master unequivocally and unconditionally. As we know, he got on the cargo boat from Calcutta. Srimati Murarji Desai, she says, Swamiji, why are you going to America? I don't know. How many have gone to America? Anyone here? It's the most demonic place in the world. If you read the 16th chapter, Ishvaraham Aham Bhogi Siddhoham Balavansuki, this is the most demoniac place. It's so much, it's like Ravan Raj. It's like, people are like intoxicated by wealth, you know. Idam adyamala maya labdam imam prapshe manorata. All these verses in the chapter 16 epitomize, the Americans epitomize the description of the demoniac person described by Krishna to Arjuna. And Śrīla Prabhupāda even was wondering when he got off the boat at Commonwealth Pier, why did you bring me here? The people are overwhelmed by Rajagun and Tamagun, completely. Intoxication every single day, intoxication. Consumption of cows, millions of cows being killed every year in these countries, America, Canada, Germany. Very, very cruel to animals. What to speak of children in the womb? They kill their own children. Unfortunately, the whole world is following this demoniac civilization, and andarya tandara upaniyamanas, the blind are leading the blind. As Śrīla Prabhupāda says in a purport in the 7th canto, where Prahlad Maharaj says, Matirna Krishna Partasvatova. It says, why are these politicians and scientists and professors and leaders, why aren't they, following the Vedic message, the Vedic Siddhanta? And he says, they're duskritina. Namam duskritina mudha prapadante naradhama. They're naradham. They're very sophisticated materially, extremely sophisticated. They can go inside your body and give you a heart transplant. Very sophisticated. They can take someone's liver, put it in your body, and you can live for another 5 years. Congratulations. But nate vidusvarta, they have no interest, as Prahlad Maharaj says, matir na Krishna parata. Prahlad says that, my dear father, the sadhu manye suravarya, oh best of the demons, he says, matir na Krishna, you can never understand Krishna or God because you've taken a vow, a vow to enjoy this material world. You've taken a vow to enjoy Krishna's property and forget about God. This is God's property. As Prabhupada said, he arrived, I think, in Chicago, and the TV journalist asked him a question, and Prabhupada said, unfortunately, he said, I've come to teach you what you've forgotten. And he said that, unfortunately, your civilization is doomed. He said, your civilization is doomed because they have no interest in Lord Krishna, in Vishnu. Nate viduso artagatimi Vishnu. Dhirashraye bahirarta manina. They only want bahirarta. They only want to enjoy more money, more things that money can buy. Beautiful cars, beautiful houses, beautiful material sense gratification, the senses. And Krishna tells Arjuna in the 14th chapter, Yattat agre mitopamam, sense gratification, a nice Mercedes-Benz. In the beginning is like nectar. Yattat agre visham, it becomes poisonous. Now everyone's worrying about air pollution. Even in Delhi here, everyone's becoming more affluent. Now there's Japanese car. When I was here, it was only ambassadors. Now as people are driving Japanese and German and American. So what? Now we have air pollution. People are going to get cancer. So mohajala, people are caught like fish in a net. So Śrīla Prabhupāda somehow was standing there and he said, well, Krishna, you must have some plan for me. So he humbly went to the slums of New York and started teaching Bhagavad-Gītā, chanting Hare Krishna. And us as young men, we were searching. We were very disillusioned. We were bewildered by Maya. Maya is very powerful. Mama Maya Drachya. So we were bewildered. So we took shelter of Śrīla Prabhupāda and started to experience the bliss and the happiness of Krishna consciousness. Śrīla Prabhupada would sit on his Vyasa-san. When we went to see him, I went to see Śrīla Prabhupada in Oregon, in Los Angeles. I saw him a few times in LA because I was distributing books there in the airports. And Prabhupada would sit there, and the first thing he would say, is everyone happy? So Prabhupada's whole desire, the souls, they're unhappy that these Americans and even now people in India, all over the world, are suffering. They're suffering from the illusionary energy of the Lord. It's very powerful. The suicide rate among students in America is very high. All these wealthy countries, Canada, very high suicide rates, very high rates of drug addiction. Young people are using drugs. They don't know where is happiness. And very simple. Simply, Prabhupada said, simply chant Hare Krishna. And he said, distribute my books, distribute my books, distribute my books. So he inspired us. Utsahan Nishchayad there yet. He inspired us to be very enthusiastic about distributing the rays of the benediction moon of Lord Chaitanya in our Prabhudatta Desh to the populations that we are living in. In Delhi, there used to be 8 million people. What's that, 80 lakhs? 80 lakhs is in. How many people now in Delhi? So it's doubled. 1.5 crores. And more cars. Is there more Maya now? Wow, 60 lakh vehicles now. So we know that Śrīla Prabhupada emphasized simple living, high thinking. He wanted farm economic based, like in the first when I first met Prabhupada, he was giving talk from Canto 1, Maharaj Yudhisthira, the reign of Maharaj Yudhisthira. He says, in the Vedic times, the rains were very regular. The cows were very happy. No one was killing cows under Maharaj Yudhisthira's reign. And the pastures were so fertile with the milk coming from the fatty milk bags of the cows. He said the mountains yielded diamonds and valuable minerals, rubies, diamonds, and other valuable stones. The oceans and rivers, they yielded pearls and wonderful, the real wealth of Mother Nature. Mother Earth was cooperating. And then if you read the purports there, he's describing the civilization in Kali Yuga. And he says it's simply a dungeon of demons. Simply a dungeon of demons. So because of his great struggle for his spiritual master, this movement has spread all over the world, in all different countries, China, Russia, Ukraine. These are communist countries where they denied the existence of God for so many years, and people were suffering, and now so many are becoming devotees of Krishna. This is the great success and the great plan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar. And we are part of his Sankirtan movement to spread this love of God. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Is there any comments or any questions or comments? Please. Mahamantra Prabhu.
When you met Prabhupada, what did you ask to him? Did you ask any question to him?
No, I was very shy actually. And Prabhupada was surrounded by so many sannyasis at the time. I would go on morning walks with Prabhupada though, and he was always teaching us how to defeat the scientists. So he'd say, you should ask one of his disciples, you be the rascal, and then I'll defeat you. So like that, we were always going morning walks with Śrīla Prabhupāda and devotees. Srūpa Damodar Maharaj, he was studying in California, Irvine, UCLA, and he showed up at the temple. I was there when he was a student, and I saw him. He would say, Prabhupada, the scientists say, that somehow from matter life has come, And then Prabhupada would say, well, I'll give you all the chemicals. Here's a dead body, all the chemicals. Now you make it living again. Until then, you're just bluffing, things that Prabhupada would say that. And he would, all morning walks, he would try to, he would challenge the scientists who are actually leading the world right now. Science has become the kind of the authoritative doctrine for human society. Atheistic science, so we are actually revolting, promoting a revolution. That Bhag-visargo janataga vipavo yasmin pratisokam avadavati api, creating a revolution against the materialistic civilization. When I was brahmachari, simple brahmachari, so one time they asked me to garland Prabhupada and put some nice chandan on him, so I did that. Prabhupada was very grave.
What is your best experience when you stayed here in Delhi for 6 years?
Preaching to students, IIT. Preaching to IIT, was ecstatic, very ecstatic preaching. Rasaraj would come here, Rasaraj Prabhu, and we would do workshops. Can machines think? Does God exist? What about the DNA? Is it the seat of life, DNA? So we had great fun at IIT and other institutions in Delhi. We also had lots of book distribution. Of course, Bombay was beating Delhi at that time. Mumbai was always ahead of Delhi, but we had many book distributors in Chandi Chowk, Daryaganj, Connaught Place, Janpat. We had tables set up. I don't know if you do that anymore, but at that time. Actually, the president of India at the time was Sharma, he was Dr. Sharma. Yeah. And I lost it, but he wrote me a letter. He was a Sanskrit scholar, and he wrote me a letter encouraging me to keep preaching at IIT. And I had invited him to come to a big program we had with Srūpa Damodar Maharaj and Hridayananda Maharaj. And he was very apologetic, he couldn't make it, but he said, I'm very happy that you're preaching Sanatana Dharma to our students who are forgetting all about their ancient culture. Unfortunately, I lost the letter. So it was very successful, very successful. We take bus loads of students to Vrindavan. Some of them would immediately start chanting 16 rounds and surrendering to Śrīla Prabhupāda's movement. So it was that was my most blissful time.
Hare Krishna. I will speak in Hindi if
Chitamrita ji ki.
If everybody follows Hindi, then I will speak in Hindi. Somebody can translate into English for you. तो मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगा और ऋषि कुमार प्रभु कृपानिधि प्रभु के लिए हिंदी इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेशन करेंगे. तो यहाँ पर जो बताया गया है कि जो वैदर्भी स्त्री है तो वो अपने पति के बिना जीवित नहीं रहना चाहती है. तो यहाँ पर जो स्थिति है वो ये है कि अपने पति के प्रति उसकी जो भावना है वो इतनी प्रगाढ़ है, अनन्य भावना है कि अपने पति की सेवा में वो पूरी तरह से समर्पित है और उसे कोई आत्मज्ञान नहीं है। उसके जो पति हैं वो पूर्ण रूप से कृष्ण भावना भावित थे और वो कृष्ण के लोक में चले गए हैं। और ऐसी स्थिति में अगर कोई स्त्री है अपने पति का जो है चिंतन करती है, पति में आसक्त होती है, तो पति लोक में जाती है। तो ये स्थिति है। कोई शिष्य भी अगर अपने गुरु के प्रति आसक्त हो जाए और अगर उसको आत्मज्ञान नहीं भी हुआ है तो वो आसक्ति ही उसको गुरु के पास ले जाती है, उसके लोक में ले जाती है। जहाँ गुरु जाएंगे वो भी शिष्य उन्हीं के पास जाएगा। तो यहाँ पर जो वैदर्भी है वो जीना नहीं चाहती है, अपने पति के बिना वो जीवित नहीं रहना चाहती है, उसे कोई आश्रय नहीं है, उसने आश्रय अपने केवल पति का लिया था। तो ऐसी स्थिति में भगवान फिर उसको मार्गदर्शन करते हैं। तो भगवान स्वयं आते हैं उसको मार्गदर्शन देने के लिए। तो उसी प्रकार से जो है कोई भी शिष्य होता है तो वो गुरु के बिना अगर वो नहीं रहना चाहता है और गुरु शरीर छोड़ चुके हैं तो भगवान उसे मार्गदर्शन देते हैं। जैसे रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी, चैतन्य महाप्रभु और स्वरूप दामोदर गोस्वामी जब इस पृथ्वी को छोड़ के चले गए तो वो भी आत्महत्या करना चाहते थे। तो रूप गोस्वामी और सनातन गोस्वामी के रूप में कृष्ण ने ही उनको जो है रोका कि तुम आत्महत्या मत करो और चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जो लीलाएं हैं वो तुम सुनाओगे तो इससे तुम्हें चैतन्य महाप्रभु की संगति प्राप्त होगी और भक्तों को भी लाभ मिलेगा, क्योंकि जो अंत लीलाओं का जो तुमने दर्शन किया है तो उसकी सूचना और भक्तों को नहीं है। 18 साल तक रघुनाथ दास गोस्वामी चैतन्य महाप्रभु की अंतिम लीलाओं को देखते रहे। तो रूप गोस्वामी, सनातन गोस्वामी ने बताया कि अगर आप चले जाएंगे तो अंतिम लीलाएं जो चैतन्य महाप्रभु हैं वो कोई नहीं जान पाएगा। तो आप जो है इनका वर्णन करिए और इस तरह से आपको जो है चैतन्य महाप्रभु की प्रत्यक्ष संगति प्राप्त होगी और दूसरे भक्त हैं उनको भी सूचनाएं मिलेंगी चैतन्य महाप्रभु की अंतिम लीलाओं की। तो इस तरह से अगर कोई शिष्य है गुरु के प्रति समर्पित होता है और उसको अगर आत्मज्ञान नहीं हुआ है तो भगवान किसी के हृदय में बैठ करके और उसको संगति देते हैं और उसको दिशा दिखलाते हैं और उसकी रक्षा करते हैं। तो यहाँ पर यही बात बताई गई है कि जो वैदर्भी है उसकी रक्षा करते हैं भगवान, क्योंकि उसने निश्चय कर लिया कि वो अपने पति के बिना नहीं रहेगी। तो भगवान उसको प्रत्यक्ष संगति देते हैं। हरे कृष्णा।
Thank you, Viru. Yeah. So Jitamrita is just emphasizing the chastity of the disciple for the spiritual master. We know in the Upadeshamrita that one must accept a spiritual master. As long as he's following the rules and regulations, he's qualified to be a spiritual master. A spiritual master may be a Madhyamadikari.
वे शांति बना के रखें, प्रभु जी बोल रहे हैं, प्लीज चुप रहें।
He may not be a Mahabhagavat. That doesn't matter. A lot of criticism amongst my god brothers after Prabhupada left was that you have to be Mahabhagavat to take disciples. It's not necessary. It's stated by Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita. One time, Tripurari, who was one of the first book distributors under Śrīla Prabhupāda, he said, Śrīla Prabhupāda, if I keep distributing your books, will I get moksha? Will I get liberation? Prabhupada said, you're already liberated. You're chanting Hare Krishna. You're ready. Like Haridas Thakur said, just by beginning the chanting of Hare Krishna, the rays of the sunshine of love of God are already dissipating the darkness of ignorance. Just by chanting Krishna just once, one is relieved of more sinful activities than one can commit in millions of lifetimes. That's stated by Haridas Thakur to Lord Chaitanya. So he told that one must accept a living spiritual master. That is the process. Krishna tells Uddhava, the one who thinks he is my devotee is not my devotee. One who is the devotee of my devotee. Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayar Dasa Das Anudas. Krishna will be very grateful if we take Diksha from one who is serving the great devotee of the Lord, or serving the devotee of the devotee of the devotee who is serving the maintainer of the gopis. That is Lord Krishna. So that is the system. We don't change anything, not even a millimeter. Not even a millimeter can we change the system. That is the etiquette. One must accept within his heart a bona fide living spiritual master. Some people are saying Prabhupada is the only guru. It's wrong. It's not fact.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Grateful for your wonderful exposition of this particular verse, especially the fact that it was amazing to see the number of verses you were quoting. Now we can see how you are so successful in preaching, and you're still successful across the world. Very, very bona fide, one can see. My question is regarding this fact that you mentioned about Kutinati and Tuchasakti and all those things, subtle anarthas. I have a question. If one is in a position of responsibility, or one is a senior Vaishnav, in that sense of the word, if someone disrespects him, so is it his duty to consider it as something for his purification and carry on, or correct the person so that it is instructive for the person? What is the right approach?
Actually, as described again in the Upadeshamrita, the neophyte devotee must inquire submissively to a more advanced devotee, the Madhyamadikari, one who actually has some experience in his preaching every day. The message of the Lord is actually Madhyamadikari. When one comes to the temple, or those who just come and see the deity, they're Kanishta. So if they insult the Madhyamadikari, who has a position of authority, then one should warn that, you can't make spiritual advancement if you commit this offense to the holy name. It's the Hatimata offense, elephant offense. So you can warn them carefully. At the same time, we want to deal in a kind way with the neophytes who are coming. Prabhupada certainly would warn his disciples if they transgressed the etiquette of dealing with a spiritual master. He's also written in some of his purports, one should be very careful. The example is, who's the example? The corrected Lord Chaitanya? In Chaitanya Charana Leela? Anyone know?
Govinda, pastor is Lotus Field, that one.
Damodar Pandit.
Damodar Pandit.
Damodar Pandit told Lord Chaitanya, you're associating with this little boy. His mother is young, unmarried, and very beautiful. What are you doing? Where's your character? Prabhupada in the purport, he says, very, very dangerous to criticize the spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya sent him off to Mayapur, Navadvip, to give his mother some Jagannath Prasad. And Prabhupada in the purport said, very, very dangerous. So there are devotees who, Krishna himself, Prabhupada said, if someone's a temple president, Krishna has put him there. Even the atheistic president of the USA or wherever, Krishna has put him in that position. Sanatana Goswami told Hussain Shah, the Lord has put you in this position, and you're causing anxiety to the Lord in Jagannath Puri, because he was always attacking Odisha. So these things should be made clear to the Kanishta Adhikari, that you should be careful. You're trampling on your devotional creeper. You're trampling on it. And if you trample too much, Krishna will get rid of you. You'll be escorted by unknown forces out the door and into the streets of New Delhi, and you'll forget all about Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is very difficult. Prabhupada used to say it's very difficult. We see many of my god brothers and god sisters are not engaged in devotional service. Even Śrīla Prabhupāda's wife, she was more concerned with tea and biscuits than pure, although she was living in a house with a great Mahabhagavat devotee. Vaishnavira Kriya Mudra, it's difficult to recognize a great devotee of the Lord. So one should be very careful in dealings with each other, especially the more senior devotees. And that is the etiquette.
The second part of the question, which I probably didn't communicate effectively, was that if one were to be in that position of being, I'm not speaking for myself, I'm speaking in general as a principle, if one were to be in a position of relevance in terms of correcting or rectifying the standards, so should one resist from doing that, looking at it as one's purification? Because if someone insults me as a junior, that's for my purification. I'd rather tolerate it, or should I go out and correct the person?
You have to correct the person. The person in this authoritative position has to correct the person, or else the person will continue committing offenses. Śrīla Prabhupada sometimes got very angry at especially the more advanced devotees. He would chastise. He said, it's my duty to chastise you. So it's your duty to chastise the person who doesn't know and transgresses the etiquette of devotional service. It's your duty to it's called, in America they call it tough love, hard love, Otherwise, Maya will beat him with sticks. If you don't beat him, Maya will do it, and Nakatika Topi, his whereabouts will become unknown. So in that sense, but Śrīla Prabhupada sometimes would get angry. But that was in a moment, he would again be totally in equilibrium. So it's transcendental anger. I mean, Arjuna must have been angry to kill 640 million warriors. I mean, he couldn't be just passive, like Gandhi says, nonviolence, but Bhagavad-Gītā is spoken on a battlefield, and Arjuna must have used some kind of transcendental anger. So I've seen Śrīla Prabhupada use transcendental anger, and then in a moment, he's completely calm again. So yeah, we have to know time and circumstance and appropriately how to guide the neophyte devotees as they're coming into the movement. We can say, yes, it's purification. Perhaps it is purification. So I can't be thrown off, too much. As Krishna says, Tulya Nindastatiya Muni or Santushtaya. Always satisfied. You may be honored, you may be dishonored. But at the same time, you have to come from a position of authority. It's your job, it's your duty of the authorities to guide properly, and sometimes you may have to correct the neophytes. It's not that you come to the movement, you're Madhyamadikari. And you can, I've had new devotees start giving me advice. Okay, you should do it this way. This is wrong. You don't know. You're not doing it right. You're not distributing books properly, or you should do it. They come and give the older devotees advice. Here's how I think you should do it to spread the movement. I've been appointed by the Lord to come and help you to spread the movement. It happens. Thank you very much. One time, this person came in San Francisco. He's just a fellow, a young student, and he started telling Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I think I'm God. Prabhupada said, please accept my humble obeisances. And then he said, no, please leave. Well, Prabhupada had to deal with so many crazy Yeah. I saw Prabhupada chastise like Harikesh. He said, you must go to Russia and preach. You're my secretary. What are you doing? Typing papers. Anyone could do this. I want you to preach. And Harikesh said, but Prabhupada, they only eat meat in Russia. That's all they eat is meat. There's nothing to eat there. I don't want to go. Prabhupada said, I don't care. You can eat meat, but preach. He didn't mean it, perhaps, but that's how much emphasis Śrīla Prabhupāda put on preaching. This is a preaching movement. And when we take the risk, as it says here, you put your life on the line for Śrīla Prabhupāda, do you think Krishna won't bless you? You throw yourself into the fire of devotional service, into the fire of preaching. We were arrested. We were beaten by police. We were thrown in prison. People threw water on us. People punched us. This is America. People come and break the madanga. So many madangas I've lost because I'm chanting. We're chanting in the streets of Canada or the U.S. Gross materialists. But you do it for Śrīla Prabhupāda, and then the Lord purifies your heart more and more. And one day, Prabhupada says, Krishna will be there and say, here I am, and stand before you. That's the goal. Prema Pumarthaman. Thank you. It's 9:10, time to go on Rath Yatra. All glories to Lord Jagannath. All glories to all you Vaishnavas. Thank you so much. Used to be 25 devotees in Bhagavatam class, 1984, 85. Gita Amrita was there. How many? 20? Beside me? Wow. Hare Krishna. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
His Grace Kripanidhi Prabhu K.